Hello, YouTube. Happy July 4th. Wow, that quickly we are in the month of July. It's that first of the month. I paid the rent, I paid my phone bill, and I'll go grocery shopping later on in the week. It's that time of the month. Everything, it's the first of the month. Get up, get up. It's the first of the month. I hope you guys are having a fabulous summer. What would make me happy this summer is if I get a new job. Like I'm praying and interceding for a new job. I've been a para since 2016 and off and on, and that's a long time. And I was lied to. I was told that it was assistant teacher and you'll be grading papers, and we don't do none of that. So it's just not what I expected. The pay is low. I was getting paid more as a security guard. It doesn't make sense. Everything not about money, but in these days and times, it better be. And even though my rent is dirt cheap, I still need something that's more decent paying. I have a bachelor's degree, so of course that definitely puts the battery in my back to want more. And yes, that's what it is. But today I wanted to talk about trap queens. Yes, so last night I had some really, really bad cramps. It kept me up all night. And right before I went to sleep this morning, I was watching something called Trap Queens. So Trap Queens on BET is a show that actually came on last 2 years ago. And they came out with another season. And this season is really good. And I just wanted to talk about briefly, I wanted to compare and contrast things that was said in Sister Soldier's book, The Coldest Winter Ever. Even though it was fictionalized, it's a fiction book, I believe. Coldest Winter Ever is very true for a lot of daughters of drug dealers. And today we're going to wild drug dealers. Remember I told you, we talk about everything on this channel. Nothing is exempt because my father taught me to be street smart. There's not a topic that I'm not familiar with or don't know about. That's why I don't really talk to certain people. I can't talk to because they're naive and I'm not. And some people with their naivety, they're not willing to learn and I am. So that's where the clash goes. You got people that's older than me and they not street smart. And I'm going to teach y'all on this video, on this channel, women look for the signs. I know a drug dealer went from a mile away. I know a bum from a mile away. And we're going to discuss that today. So, I saw, how many episodes did I see? I saw 3 episodes of Trap Queen. And I wanted to talk about each and every one of them. One of them, he didn't have a significant other, or she, whatever, is a transgender, and his name was Gwen. So, nothing much that needs to be said about him, but I wanted to talk about one of them that was, her father was a drug dealer. So I wanted to send a message out to fathers I've never looked down at the whole drug dealing thing. If that's what you do, if that's what you need to do to provide for your family, who am I? But keep your kids out of it. I think that's just so sad that for you to let the kids know what you do. And then naturally, because there were 3 girls, she was the middle child and she wanted to be like her daddy. She was inquisitive. She was the middle child and she was inquisitive. So naturally, curiosity caught the cat and she started dating guys just like her dad. And I think I talked about that in a previous video. It's kind of scary how the guys that I date are very similar to my father characteristics. They either have 1 or 2 of his characteristics. It's very scary. And so naturally, as women, when we grow up, little girls to women, we are gonna date somebody like our dad. We don't want to, but it's human nature, right? So this girl, her father was a drug dealer, and she started dating drug dealers. The mother didn't approve, but it's like, you was with a drug dealer, you lived with him, y'all was together, y'all had 3 kids, so how you gonna tell your daughter, oh, don't date that type of man, when her father is that type of man? You know, you gotta lead by example. At least break up with him. You never broke up with him, so you can't tell your daughter X, Y, and Z. That's hypocritical. I wanted to talk about it because this stuck out to me, and this is a message I wanted to tell, because I know a lot of kids watch me, and I feel like if at least one hears this message, I've done my job. So what made this story stick out to me was the fact that she was dating a guy, and in the end, they had like $1 million worth of drugs in the car, and she had a friend, right? Notice I did that. A friend. And she noticed when they were driving to get to the next state, she was driving a little bit too fast. So when you're watching the episode, me being street smart, that girl planned that. She planned it to put it on her. And I talked about what I wanted to say is, be careful who you befriend and be careful who you date. Because in this particular episode and in this particular scenario, the guy set her up. He told the cops that it was because the girl, the daughter, her name is Brandy. So Brandy's friend, right, this alleged friend, Brandy noticed that she was speeding. She was like, slow down, ho, like you driving too fast, whatever. She purposely was driving fast so the cops could pull her over. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So the cops pull her over, and they tell her to follow Brandy, and she follows Brandy, and Brandy gets arrested, the boyfriend gets arrested, and the friend walks away. So this person was not a friend. This person was just there to set her up. What makes it worse is the boyfriend then turns against Brandy. And that's what typically happens. And I wanted to compare that. Those of you who have seen, it's like, the book is so good, it's like watching a movie. But the last part of the book is when Winter, all she knows is drug money. She grew up on it. Her father was Ricky Santiago. Her name was Winter Santiago. And if you read the book, you know that once the feds came to the house in Long Island, she had to fend for herself. The kids, she was like 14 or 15, and her siblings were little. So they went to foster care, and she went to different men that took care of her. She didn't know about working. She already dropped out of school, and she said school is for cornballs. So she wasn't a fan of school. She wasn't going to do that. She missed too many days. She dropped out. So now she has to survive. So the guy that was in competition with her father, she ends up dating him. And he takes care of her, whatever. And the part of the book that really was like wow to me is her mother. So her mother was a kept woman, right? So when this happened, her mother was a grown woman in her 30s or 40s, and she had never worked. And that's why, ladies, it's so important to work, not just because it's a part of being an adult, but she should at least learn to sell her own drugs, because when shit hit the fan, what happened was she became addicted to drugs because her mother couldn't cope with being poor. Her mother didn't know how to survive. So she was dependent. She went on drugs. And Winter is in the apartment with her boyfriend, with this guy she's seeing, and she sees the transaction. She hears a knock at the door, looks through the peephole, and it's her mother. And she was like, she didn't know what to do. She didn't know. And then the guy she was dating was giving her drugs. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to say, because that's her boyfriend. So she didn't feel like she could say, don't give my mother that. Like, she just didn't know. And her mother, it was really sad because her mother was unrecognizable. Like, the book is really, really deep, y'all. Like, I hope y'all get it. Let me go find the book. Hold on. So I couldn't find the physical copy. Didn't feel like getting on a chair. I thought it would be like right there in my face. But if y'all Google it, and I'm trying to look it up on my laptop here. But it's a very, very, very good book. You know, some people may feel like, oh, it's a hood book and the language is improper. Listen, if no one taught you to be street smart, this book will teach you to be street smart. Like my father, big ups to him, he taught me to be street smart at a very young age. He didn't just put me in front of the TV to watch stuff. He would sit down and explain stuff. So any interaction that I had with a man, I was prepared for. Totally. He told me what type of guys to stay away from. He told me what he used to do in the streets. My father was the Steve Harvey before the Steve Harvey. You know, that's why I don't understand a lot of females, because my father really prepared me for life. You know, so when people say things and they don't know what they're talking about, it's like, yo, you didn't have somebody to let you know the truth. And that's your job as a parent, is you have to be transparent. Not saying you got to expose them to everything, but let them know, hey, when somebody come, you living in the hood, this is what you have to look out for. And I'm happy that my father always did that. And yes, I was a church girl and all of that, but I was never naive. So when you hear women that say, oh, he was a drug dealer and I didn't know, and me, I always know. Just like I told y'all about the guy in my building, I had just gave birth and I was looking good. I was, you know, so a lot of guys, they were attracted to me. And one of them was a drug dealer, and I knew he was a drug dealer before he even said he was. I pressed him. I was like, what do you do for a living? Because that's a real leather jacket. Remember I told y'all his name was Brandon too. And he was a perfect gentleman. He really was. But I knew that that's not what I wanted for myself. And I'm like, yo, I just had a kid. I'm not trying to be dating no drug dealer. If that's the case, I'd be with my son's father. Like, I'm not gonna not be with him and then I'm gonna be with you, you know, because you may be more attractive and you know how to hide it. And talking about something, he worked for MTA. Please. I was smart because my father prepared me for that. My father, you know. So I was trying to see, I don't know if this is a big enough image for y'all to see. But the book looks like this, y'all. If y'all can see it. That's how it looks. It looks like she got teeth, but it says a novel. But yes, it's called The Coldest Winter Ever. So in the book, like I said, Winter was a kept girl. That's all she didn't know how to survive. She's only 14 or 15 years old. So all she knows is to depend on a man. That's all she knows. So though she saw her man, boyfriend, give the drugs to her mom, to her it was like, well, what am I supposed? And in the book she talks to herself. So she's like, well, it's like she's talking to the audience. Like, the book is very well written because it's like you could visualize what's going on. And she's like, well, what the fuck was I supposed to do? You know, I need him to take care of me right now. Da-da-da-da. So that's the middle of the book. Towards the end of the book, he sets her up, and it's so sad. So basically, they in the car. This is why you don't date drug dealers. This is why you don't date them. If you have sex with them, you move on. This is, you know, try not to be in their cars and none of that, you know. And because you never know when they're going to get pulled over. So that's exactly what happened. So Winter and her boyfriend are in the car cruising, whatever, and the cops stop them. And you know what happens? The drugs is in the car, and he puts the blame all on Winter, saying, those are her drugs. Those are her drugs. She didn't have a leg to stand on. She denied it. She said, no, that he's the drug dealer. Da 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 da. I'm just his girlfriend. But what ended up happening is she went to jail. Went to jail. And the way the book ends is her sister is now a teenager. Years have passed. And her sister is dating a drug dealer. And she's like, should I tell her to beware or just learn for herself? You know. But Winter, the way it ends is Winter is in jail and her sister's visiting her. But it's a very, very sad story. And it's very similar to Brandy's story from Trap Queen. Brandy was dating a guy, and when shit hit the fan, Brandy went to jail, not her boyfriend. And not her friend. She went to jail for 7 years. Her mother, luckily she had her mom take care of her son from the age of 3 to 10. It's very sad, you know, and that's the thing about when you do an illegal activity, it's not just bad because it's illegal, but the people around you are very jealous. And in the very end, they will write you out. They're not going to defend you. And she even said it. She's like, what type of man snitches on his girlfriend and don't take no blame at all when he's the main person involved? But that's how a lot of these drug dealer men are. They don't care about you. I don't care what nobody says. Drug dealers have a certain personality. They may have families, they may have wives. Some of them have wives. A lot of them have girlfriends and kids, but they don't really care about nobody except for the bag. That's what it boils down to. If you're their kid and you fuck up their bag, you may go missing, though you be their child. They will find you and they will end your life because that's their guard. It becomes like a sickness. It's a sickness. It really is. And the next story, it was about a booster. She actually used her child as bait so people wouldn't catch on. So she pretended to get married. First it started off as a mistake. So she had her daughter at 17. And the person she was staying with was like, okay, you don't want to go to school, cool, but you got to find a job. So she found a job in retail. And this became the beginning of her illegal stuff. So her friend comes and she rings her up and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, I got stuff in the bag. You didn't ring it up. It was a mistake. And she's like, she got an idea like, oh, wow, I could do this. That's exactly what she started doing. She would act like her first big shopping spree that she got for free. She acted like she was getting married and got the items and then returned it to the next store. How she did it without a receipt, I don't know. But she did it without a receipt and got the cash back for it. And a lot of people do that, and that is illegal. For those of y'all who don't know, if you get something from a store and you return it to the next store out of laziness, or maybe you don't live next to the store that you originally went to and you get the money back without a receipt, that is illegal. And you ain't purchased it. Or even if you purchase it, whatever, you're supposed to have that receipt. So she kept doing this, and she was pregnant, and she did it for the same thing for baby shower registry. She kept doing this. Then she did it because she ended up having a second kid. And she got with a bum. She got married to a guy that was a bum. He didn't even sell drugs. Like, he was just leeching off of her. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about. Beware of those types of men. I've never encountered a bum. I've never dated a bum. Everybody at least sold drugs. Bare minimum of what. I'm by no means am I telling anybody to sell drugs. But I'm saying, I just don't understand why she would go for a guy. She had a kid with him, and then she had a daughter. And you go and date a nigga who don't have no money. Like, he wasn't selling drugs. He wasn't a rapper. He wasn't in a studio. He wasn't doing nothing. All he was doing was drinking alcohol. So what ended up happening was he was just using her, and that's what made her boost again, because she's like, I got this brand new baby, he ain't working, what am I supposed to do? So she went back to what she knew, boosting. And so she made up to $2 million. And what she would do is she would get bogus receipts. Sometimes she actually would buy something and then use that receipt and remove the information onto, like, this girl was really smart in what she was doing. Because some people do it, but not at the capacity she did it. So she did it up to $2 million. Then she did it for her daughter's prom. Her daughter had $1,000 dress, $500 shoes, all this stuff in 2012. And so both her and her daughter get arrested, naturally, because she's of age, she's with her mama. So of course they thought she was involved. And she says her famous line of, "Get the fuck back, I have a gun." Not with this security guard. So they tackle her. Some security guards, they are licensed and they have the ability to arrest you. So they arrested her and she finally got caught. I forgot how long she was in jail for, but while she was in jail, her husband auctioned her house. He sold everything she owned. And she was telling him, like, yo, put commissary in my thing. He did not do it. He literally used her. So I wanted to tell people, when you're doing something illegal, best believe you're going to get your leeches. And you got to be careful of that. I guess she latched onto him because maybe she don't get dudes. So that's the best she could do. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But that was her man. And to the very end, he didn't just live off of her. He sold her house. He sold everything she owned. And when she came out of jail, she had to start from scratch. And she eventually opened a business. Now, if she's still doing that, boosting or not, we don't know. She says she stopped. She did admit that she lied to her family before. I don't know if she'll do it again, but hopefully she learned her lesson. During the interview, she does laugh about it, and she does admit that she wasn't really remorseful at first. She laughs about being a terrible mom, because that is terrible. She actually had 11 charges, one of them being endangering a child. So that's why I was talking about, like, people who sell drugs or do illegal activity. A lot of the times, they don't even care about their own kids. It's an adrenaline. It's a drug. So hopefully she stopped. She actually has a successful business, and she's doing okay. And her friends remained her friends and stuff like that. She was the only child. Her mother died of cancer. She ended up getting cancer, but she overcame it. So she's a walking testimony. She found God. And also the girl Brandy, she found Allah. So that's what I liked about the stories. Like, they end on positive notes. Brandy actually opened up a nonprofit organization called Free Pretty Girls. So it's the transition of women coming out of prison to the real world, and I think that's wonderful, and that's dope. She works at a car dealership, and she has a nonprofit, so that's super dope. But Brandy, their men were fucked up. Brandy got with a drug dealer who didn't care about nobody but himself, just like in the book. And I'm like, wow, that's so amazing that Sister Soldier was able to create these characters, and they were real. Like, that's what really you have drug dealers that's like that. Like, they don't care about nobody but themselves. They're not trying to go to jail, so they're gonna put the blame on you. And they'll say they love you to the moon and back and all that BS. But that's all it is smoke and mirrors. Yeah. And then for the guy, the lady who boosted, she had a leech. Like, he married her so she could take care of him, pretty much. And it's a shame, but you got to be aware of that. If you're dating a guy and he pays for nothing at all, that's a sign. When I told y'all about the guy Ivan For the first date he paid, and the rest of the dates I paid, and I let him borrow $25, altogether $50. After $50 I was done. Like, I'm not gonna keep giving you money. The most I'll do is pay for dinner and movies, but there's no way I could just let somebody live off of me. Like, I've never been that desperate for a guy, you know. And most of the guys that I come across, they got their own bread. So, you know, they got their own bread. So it's like, you know, never settle for that, ladies. You know, if he comes to you, he don't got a place to go, that's not your problem. He comes to you because it's called a leech. And when you're not doing it, it's called a leech. So when your funds run out or something run out, he gonna run. Best believe. You know, and these drug dealers, like I said, they don't care about you. So, but yeah, Trap Queen is a really good show. It's very positive. You know, a lot of people, they like, oh, you know, that's negative, but they overcome. They go to prison, they come out, and they do something with their life. The narration is done by Lil Kim, and executive producer is Judge Mathis. It's a very good show. And yeah, those are my thoughts.